Our boy is back. And guess what? He's sucking on a big old sack. And let me tell you about old hey man. Yeah, he's doing some things and they ain't good. I heard things and they're all bad. Look, man, Danzig had long been rumored to be releasing an Elvis album. I remember about like fucking 5 years ago, it was a really strong rumor. Then 2 years ago, it was like, oh, he's finally getting it out there. And even before all that, there was always that murmur.
Yeah.
Yo, he's gonna drop an Elvis cover album. He teased it. He even covered Elvis before, not only in his EP Thrall Demon Sweat Live, but also in the Samhain era. Same track, mind you, but just re-recorded. But so we got a taste of that. On top of that, if you're a fucking Dan fan, and I don't mean Schneider, I mean Danzig, Glenn Danzig to be precise, not the place Danzig, which who the hell goes there anyway?
Or Zandig, the wrestler.
Damn, there's a Zandig?
Yeah, he's the CZW guy.
That sucks. Anyway, look, as any Dan fan knows, if you've been around for a while hearing Danzig, he's got these powerhouse fucking vocals.
Whoa!
Bluesy vocals. Any Danzig fan worth his metal has at least a shitty impression to shell out of Danzig because they just love these weird bluesy, like ripping vocals that at times harken back to that fucking Elvis-like.
He's like one of those few people that you could put on a song and just go whoa, whoa, and you'll probably be right.
He could literally just make sounds and then you're like, hell yeah, that's pretty cool. So if you've been around if you've been a Danzig fan for a long time, he could achieve that sound. Particularly, I like to point out Danzig 2 Lucifuge, which is straight up blues metal. Like if Elvis ever made metal, it would sound like Lucifuge did the whole fucking album. You know what I'm saying? But Elvis did not. But we know that Danzig also likes Elvis, and he likes to tip the old hat, if he would ever wear one, which he wouldn't and shouldn't, to things that have inspired him, be they movies or music. A few years ago, he released an album of covers of music that he loved in the metal genre, and it was called Skeletons, and it sucked big donkey dicks. All right? I'm a Danzig fan. Yeah. Let's get that out there before anybody's like, oh, this fucking piece of shit. Look here, man. I'm a Danzig fan.
I think that you're probably the biggest Danzig fan I know.
I mean, it's not saying much.
No, I mean, just size-wise. You're the biggest Danzig fan I know.
I'm literally a Danzig dirigible that floats over his concerts because he's that old.
Damn, homie.
No, look, man. I'm a huge Danzig fan. You're a Danzig fan, too. Misfits era, Samhain era, and Danzig era. And I've forgiven Danzig many, as we all Danzig fans do, forgiven him many a slight.
Yeah.
This
year alone, we've forgiven slights with the movie.
Veronica, holy shit, what a piece of crap. Check out that review. It took us an hour to review that shit. But anyway, Skeletons was a cover album where Danzig'd. You know what I'm saying? Danzig decided, as he always does, to be a stubborn dick and be like, I can produce, I can mix, I can do all this stuff on my own, and I'll only bring in other people when absolutely necessary. It's such a travesty that the people that did work on the album with him have been noted to saying like, dude, we tried to tell him, and he was like, nope, these are the songs I'm doing, and this is the way I'm doing them. Danzig is a stubborn fuck. Even back in the Misfits days, he was known for that. He would refuse to let anybody else do the work. He would just do it, teach it to them, and say, play it my way. Now, granted, Jerry Only can't play for shit still, but you know what I mean? It's a problem with the Zig. Now, sometimes he hits that motherfucker straight out of the ballpark, but we all know, deep down in our hearts, our Danzig hearts, they're shaped like his fucking head, which is huge, by the way.
Yeah, dude, that guy's head is gone.
We all know that the best Danzig era was Rick Rubin produced Danzig. Even Danzig 4, which he started to wrestle that control back, even that is way better than, the majority of Danzig stuff. Of course, there's much to love after that. Circle of Snakes is fucking awesome. Death Red Sabbath, etc. There's a lot to love after that. But I'm just saying, I think we all know that fucking era is the best. And guess what? That's when somebody else was going, I'm going to fucking produce this. I'm going to mix this. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to focus on what your strengths are and bring them forward. Danzig seems obsessed with making his voice disappear.
Yeah, what is that?
In mixes. You know what I'm saying?
Like,
now,
even going back far, that was a thing.
Yeah, in the Misfits era and stuff like that. You could argue that like the lo-fi production was responsible for that, but he's done that nowadays. So like nowadays you might argue it's because he's lost a lot of that vocal prowess he used to have. Now his voice is very whispery, almost like coarse at times. He definitely can't wail as he once did all the time. You know what I'm saying? Especially in live situations. But we know that if he dedicates himself, he can still achieve it. So if you're in a recording situation, why not wait until you get that right fucking, moment? Why settle for less?
But anyway. Especially after having 50 million years on this album.
Yeah. So Danzig's, these are all problems with Danzig. In Skeletons, they showed because Danzig was Danzig, and he said, "I'm gonna produce the shit out of this in my shitty, half-assed way, and on top of that, I'm gonna choose the shittiest possible selection of songs that I can." Now, I'm not shitting on those songs themselves. I'm saying that nobody on earth wanted Danzig to sing those songs. Danzig wanted to sing those songs because he's Danzig, and he decides, well, fuck that. I'm gonna go against convention and select these songs just because, nobody has heard them, basically. I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean. He Danzig.
Yeah.
So now when it came to fucking Danzig sings Elvis, Elvis has one of the most broad catalogs out there. And here's the thing about Elvis. Here's the thing about fucking Elvis. He covered a shit ton of songs. So there's so many songs that are renowned. Some so renowned that they're not even like renowned for Elvis singing them. Like, oh, Elvis sang that? Like, he covers Fever here. And, people remember Fever from just about everybody but Elvis. So anyway, the point is, Danzig, first mistake for Danzig Sings Elvis is he decided to go eclectic with his song selection. Dude, people have been wanting this fucking album forever. And I realize it's kind of admirable that you don't want to go with the mainstream shit, but you gotta hit some of those fucking, desirable songs for people because that's what they wanted to hear. They want to hear your voice with these songs, Throw in a little mix in there too, but shit, come on, man. What is that?
Shit, you can even squint and just do like Devil in Disguise, make it your own shitty Danzig version, something like that.
You wish that was the case because that's problem number 2. This is not a Danzig version of Elvis songs. It's just him very boringly miming Elvis with occasionally throwing in a little Danzig, a little vocal in there that you're like, oh, he's gonna go there. Nope, he's not. He's back to just kind of talking, I guess. He doesn't full on Danzig on anything in this album, and at times he seems to struggle with the song, like even to be on time with the music. It's fucking weird, dude. Which brings me to problem number 3. Every single song, well, I shouldn't say that. Almost every single song on this album feels like he recorded it and he was like, that's it. That's the one. I'm done. Next. And you're like, dude, what the fuck? Anybody with ears can tell that you needed to do at least 2-3 more runs to get the right fucking everything. All right? Like, dude, what is this? This is clearly a first take. And if it's not, what the hell happened to you? I don't know what it is, but none of the songs feel polished. None of them. Even the better ones. None of them feel polished. Some of them, they have moments where you're like, yes, but he doesn't apply his Danzigness to them enough. And then on top of that, while the changes are moderate, they're not enough for you to make it interesting.
Yeah.
You know, you're just like, all right, I'm just hearing Danzig
like
not try.
Instead of making a Danzig song, an Elvis song, a Danzig song, he just is talking an Elvis song.
Basically. And here's the problem with that.
The music, from what I've heard, is hella boring.
That's what I'm getting to. Here's the problem. How do you make an Elvis song into a Danzig song and still keep it an Elvis song? The answer is you gotta get that infamous Danzig sound, you know, the almost Sabbath-esque guitars. You know, if fucking like people like somebody like if John Christ was still around with him and stuff like that, they could have brought that sound. I mean, yes, again, we know that Danzig was like, this is what I want and all that stuff, but there's a very distinctive sound that is like what most people think of Danzig. Even an approximation of that would have been good. But here we just get piss poor guitar work. Like, who the fuck did the guitars on this? Garth Brooks? Still can't play guitar, by the way.
Damn.
Like, fucking shit, dude. It's just shitty. I mean, I've heard worse. Don't get me wrong. It's not, like, horribly incompetent, but you're like, dude, clearly this is you doing the guitars. You know what I'm saying? And then there's piano pieces in here. And, like, oh, God, man, you know, piano... They say, you know, if you can play the piano, you can adapt to any instrument. Well, Danzig can't play the piano very well. Let me just say that. So, the piano work here is just like some lounge shit. You know what I'm saying? Like some shitty smoke-filled lounge, and it's that guy that they hired because he can sort of play the piano all right. And it sounds good when you have like 7 drinks in you. It's that type of piano level. And by the way the mix is fucking inconsistent and shit. Sometimes his voice is way up front, which is, by the way, refreshing. Sometimes he's like super echo, man.
Yeah, in the background.
And then like the fucking instruments are way up front. And sometimes it's the guitar, sometimes it's the piano, sometimes it's super bassy. It's just like, who the fuck and why? And you could argue, well, maybe it's the different eras of Elvis. Elvis is, you know, has a little sound change and stuff, but I don't know, man. It's so like at least organized in a way where it kind of tonally fits around its peers. But it's just like from one track to the next, you're like, what the fuck is going on? What is this? His voice is shot. You know what I'm saying? We've known this for years, but we also known that he could still do it if he wanted to. You know, there's some fucking great shit in Circle of Snakes. This it's still like before Circle of Snakes, but like E. Luciferi, Circle of Snakes, Death Red Sabbath, the recent album, you know, they all have really good vocal shit. So we know he could still hit it, but here it's just we get the whispery fucking like...
Yeah, like the homie needs a lozenge.
Yeah, fucker needs like 70 lozenges, really. You know, like, you didn't try? You didn't fucking suck on a sucrette or some shit? Like, what the fuck is this, man? So I don't get it, man. I don't get that. And he seems to have, like, down-tuned everything so that it's slow. You know, there's a few faster songs. There's what's the name of that fucking song, man? I forgot. I should have brought a track listing so I could break it down.
It's strange to do that because, you know, Elvis is very... I mean, obviously, Elvis has a lot of eras, as you mentioned.
Right.
But the era most people are familiar with is that fast, energetic Elvis.
Right.
You know, if you like his gospel shit, that's something else. If you like his later, like, 70s era stuff, he still had a lot of energetic music. So, yeah, it's bizarre to go that route with slow...
Okay, so I brought up a track list, and look, like there's faster paced songs like, let me see right here, Baby Let's Play House, Pocket Full of Rainbows, and stuff like that. By the way, that title alone, Danzig singing it, should have been a crowd pleaser, and it is interesting to hear him do some of these songs. I'm not gonna lie and say that it isn't. It's just that inherently, I think everybody, even the people that like this album, know that it could have been way better. You know what I'm saying? So, look, like some of these, like the Lonely Blue Boy, Pocket Full of Rainbows itself, like okay, like a baby, like right, dude. Who wanted these songs? He does hit some like One Night and stuff like that. Always on My Mind, but they're not particularly great takes either.
Yeah, I heard Always on My Mind parts of it, and it's strange because that song, the Elvis version, has a very specific part where there is some good wailing.
Mm-hmm.
Nathan!
Yeah, he just like completely avoids.
He just whispers it.
Yeah, it's like I know he's conscious. I mean, he's known for his voice.
Yeah.
He has to be conscious. Fuck that. He is conscious of the fact that he's not at his peak anymore. But I think this album shows his fucking insecurities about it to the max. Because he like almost pussyfoots around wanting to go anywhere, And when you think he does, you're like, kinda. It's always like that.
Yeah.
Sorta. Did I like any tracks in this? Yes. I think Loving Arms is genuinely the only great track on this album. It's actually fucking good. Again, the problem is still there with the mixing, the instrumentation, all that shit, but it's one where you can ignore that and you're like, this is actually a good one. Does he do anything wild with his voice in it? No, but it sounds good. It sounds both Danzig and Elvis in a good way. I think Loving Arms is a good track. One Night is fine. Girl with My Best Friend is kind of entertaining because it's like, what the fuck? And Danzig is singing about this. Is It So Strange is fine as the introductory track. There's moments. Is it enough to save this album? I want to live in a world where I can say I recommend this album, that it was worth the wait. But the answer is fuck no. This album sucks massive dicks. Big, floppy wieners, man. It's a bad album. I know I might get some hate, especially from Danzig fans, and that's fine. You can like it, and that's fine. But I feel a lot of people are making excuses for this album.
Yeah.
Because it's Danzig, and we love him so. But holy shit, this is fucking bad. And look, here's the real issue. We all know in our heart of hearts that if he'd done this album around the Danzig 1 through 4 era, it would have fucking slayed. God damn, would it have slayed. It would have been fucking coolest shit album ever, man.
I think, people want the Elvis thing. Obviously, so do I. I'm an Elvis fan. But listening to The Doors, there's a lot of more stuff in there that would have been really good with Danzig's voice back then.
Yeah. The unfortunate part to that is, and I agree, the unfortunate part to that is if he would have done it now, he would have
sucked.
He would have chosen Doors songs that never came out and whispered all of them.
And it would have been like the ones from the movie or some weird loophole.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, especially musically, the music and the Doors stuff is a little more fast, a little more heavier. It would have been a lot easier to adapt that into his style back then.
Yeah, and at that point you can kind of excuse hiding your vocals a little bit behind sounds. Here you can't. Elvis was, despite, him being Elvis, basically, he was pretty stripped down as far as a rock and roll star goes, He was renowned for his voice. He was renowned for other things too, but you know what I'm saying? The voice was a major point. You know what I'm saying? And here it's like, what is this? You're a guy renowned for your voice and we're not even getting an attempt? It's like he didn't care. And that's the biggest problem I have with this album. It feels careless. It feels super rushed because, again, everything feels like a first take. So ultimately, it's a fucking stinker, man. I'm gonna give it a fucking 3 out of 10, and that 3 really, I feel I'm being nice because of those few moments that I like.
And it's Danzig.
And it's Danzig.
You gotta give him a bone.
You know what I'm saying?
I'll give him another bone. The vinyl is really nice. It's green. That's it.
Cool. Danzig. I don't know, man. The good thing is that his Danzig material, as in the band. Excuse me. I'm Danziging.
Yeah.
His Danzig band material is still pretty good. It's been good since I Luciferi, so that's cool. Fuck, man. It was sad. It was sad because everybody had waited so long for this. And I think that's why a lot of people are making excuses for it. On top of, we love Danzig. We want to see him be, well, I'm not going to say happy because that motherfucker's miserable, but
Definitely.
we want to see him, like, do things as he's always done them. But this is not good.
Yeah.
It's not good at all. So, there you go, man. That's my thoughts on Danzig. I wish I could have loved it. At one point, I was the guy that needed to have a copy of every Danzig album with this, or at least every Danzig output, between this and Veronica, which, is obviously a movie, but it's still Danzig output, and Skeletons, it's just kind of broken me. You know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck? But, that's the way it goes sometimes. Hopefully you'll recover from this. Although that vampire western movie is coming, so maybe. But anyway, let us know what you think about Danzig sings Elvis. That's a thing I heard. Shit.
Stinky.
Anyway, we're out, guys. Hit like, share, subscribe, and notification buttons. And bye.